It was the kind of morning that hung heavy with silence, drizzling skies, slick pavement, and the muffled hum of tires on wet asphalt. Luke Carter, a single dad who had long since grown used to quiet mornings alone, was heading to his job at the auto shop when he noticed something strange. As he passed the old bus stop on Maple Street, he caught sight of two tiny figures curled up on the wooden bench, their small bodies trembling from the cold. Luke slowed his truck and pulled over instinctively. When he stepped out, he saw the girls more clearly, twin sisters, maybe 6 years old, their matching blonde hair soaked and clinging to their pale faces. They clutched each other tightly, their little backpacks resting by their feet. Luke approached slowly, crouching to meet them at eye level. "Hey there," he said gently. "Are you okay? Are you waiting for someone?" The girls hesitated before the braver one spoke. "Our mom said to wait here. She said a ride would come. But it didn't." Her voice wavered with confusion and fear. Luke's chest tightened. He looked around, no other adults, no cars nearby, just endless drizzle and the sound of passing traffic. He offered them the granola bar from his lunchbox and took off his jacket to wrap around them. The smaller girl, Emma, leaned into her sister, Lily, eyes wide and wet. "Do you know your mom's number?" he asked. Both shook their heads. Luke reached for his phone and called the authorities, explaining the situation. They told him someone would be dispatched shortly, but there was no immediate place for them in foster care, just hold tight. So he sat with them, his jacket draped over their tiny shoulders, and told them silly stories about car engines and how his teenage son used to make monster noises when he was scared. Slowly, their shoulders stopped shaking. Hours passed before a social worker arrived. As they led the girls away, Emma reached back and grabbed Luke's hand. "Will you be there tomorrow?" she asked softly. He didn't know why, but his answer came without hesitation. "Yeah, sweetheart. I will." And just like that, something inside him began to change. Luke hadn't planned on bringing two little girls into his life, let alone his home. But after that rainy morning at the bus stop, when no foster placement could be found and the social worker asked if he'd be willing to take them in temporarily, he heard himself say yes. The next day, Lily and Emma stepped into his modest house, their small feet barely making a sound on the hardwood floor. They clutched each other's hands like they were afraid the world might split them apart if they let go. Luke led them to the guest room, once his wife's old sewing room, now cleared out and holding two mismatched twin beds with soft blankets. "It's not much," he said awkwardly, "but it's yours for now." The girls didn't answer, just looked around with wide, uncertain eyes. Luke's teenage son, Kyle, barely looked up from his phone when the girls were introduced. He wasn't rude, just quiet. Ever since his mom died, Kyle had retreated into himself, and Luke didn't blame him. But even he was surprised when Kyle peeked into the guest room later that evening, holding an old stuffed bear he'd had since he was 5. Without a word, he placed it on Lily's bed and walked away. Luke saw the way the girls lit up at the simple gesture and felt something shift. The first week was hard. The girls woke up from nightmares, crying out for their mom. Luke, exhausted from work, tried his best to comfort them, sitting on the floor between their beds, rubbing their backs until they slept. He burned pancakes twice, forgot where he stored their clothes, and didn't know how to braid hair to save his life. But each day, the girls opened up more. Emma drew him a picture of a house with a stick figure labeled Daddy Luke. Lily began humming when she helped him set the table. One evening, as he tucked them in, Emma looked up at him with big eyes and asked, "Are you gonna be our daddy now?" Luke's heart clenched. He didn't know what the future held, but something deep inside whispered the answer he couldn't yet say out loud. He gave her a tired smile, kissed her forehead gently, and whispered, "Sleep tight, sweetheart. I'll be right here." For months, Luke's house had come alive again. Mornings were filled with cereal spills and laughter, while evenings ended with storybooks and sleepy little heads nestled against his chest. Kyle, once distant and guarded, had become a protective big brother, teaching Lily how to ride a bike and letting Emma steal bites from his plate. The house that once echoed with silence now pulsed with joy. Luke had started to believe this new life, unexpected as it was, might actually last. But then, the phone rang. It was the caseworker. The girl's biological mother had resurfaced. She claimed she had been going through something and now wanted her daughters back. Luke felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. He had watched these girls heal from invisible wounds. He had been the one they reached for during nightmares, the one they called Daddy Luke. And now he might have to hand them over to a woman who had left them crying in the rain. Legal proceedings began. The mother made a formal custody claim. Luke couldn't believe it. His hands shook as he gathered every photo, every drawing they'd made, every school note that said, "I love you, Dad." Friends from the neighborhood wrote letters. Teachers testified. Even Kyle stood up, his voice steady for the first time in a long while, and said, "They made us a family again. Please don't take them away." The hearing was gut-wrenching. Luke stood before the judge and bared his soul. "I didn't ask for this," he said, his voice breaking. "But the day I found them, they changed me. I'm not just raising them, they're raising me too. They've brought life back into this home. And I can't imagine a single day without them." The judge turned to the girls. Lily's voice trembled as she clutched her sister's hand. "We don't want to go," she said softly. Emma added, "This is our home now. We already have a daddy." Silence fell in the courtroom. Tears welled up in Luke's eyes as the judge leaned forward, hands folded. "In the best interest of the children," she said gently, "this court grants permanent custody to Mr. Luke Carter." In that moment, Luke knew, the fight was over, but the forever was just beginning. Spring brought new life to the town, trees budding with green, birds nesting in gutters, and the sun warming everything it touched. But for Luke, the most beautiful moment wasn't found in nature. It was in a quiet courtroom where Lily and Emma, dressed in matching yellow dresses, sat beside him with nervous excitement. Today was adoption day. The room was filled with family, friends, teachers, and even Kyle's basketball coach, all there to witness a family becoming official. Kyle stood in the back, holding a handmade sign that read, "Welcome home, little sisters." Luke had never worn a suit in years, but he did today. His hands were sweaty, his heart thudding in his chest, not from fear, but from overwhelming emotion. The judge, a kind woman with silver-rimmed glasses, looked at the paperwork, then smiled down at the twins. "Are you sure this is what you want?" she asked gently. Emma nodded fiercely while Lily whispered, "We already call him Dad." As the final stamp echoed through the courtroom, cheers erupted. Luke knelt down, arms wide open, as the girls ran into his embrace, their little arms wrapping around his neck with such force it made him laugh through his tears. Kyle joined them, ruffling the girls' hair, and for the first time in a long time, their family felt whole, stitched together by love, not blood. Back home, a small celebration awaited. Cupcakes, balloons, and a cake that read, "Forever Family." Luke watched as Lily and Emma twirled in their dresses, giggling and chasing bubbles in the backyard. Kyle grilled hot dogs while neighbors stopped by to congratulate them. As evening fell, the girls curled up beside Luke on the couch, their heads resting on his shoulders. Emma looked up and asked, "Do you think our real mom is sad?" Luke paused, his hand gently brushing her hair. "I think she made a hard choice. But I also think sometimes family finds you in unexpected ways." Lily looked up and whispered, "You're the only dad we've ever really known." Luke held them tighter, heart swelling with gratitude and love. "And you're the daughters I never knew I needed, but now I can't imagine life without." In the end, he hadn't just saved two little girls. They had saved him right back.